Hi, I'm Lila Reziel. Welcome to my channel if you haven't been here before, or welcome back if you have. I was going to do one video, but I thought, oh no, that's going to get a bit long. Like the other one was already 13 minutes. So I thought, no, I'll break them up. So first video will be an update regarding EFT, DNRS, and FasterEFT. And then I'm going to do this video, which is going to talk about symptoms and things, because with FasterEFT, apparently you actually forget old memories, like they, you flip them, and so then you forget them, and I thought, okay, well, if there's a chance of that, I want a record, not to take me back in a bad way, I can just tap it away again, but so that I don't forget, for my family, for authenticities, for people to see, you know, the spherical view of my recovery and my trauma and what got me to this point. Oh God, it's so phlegmy. So, I'm going to talk about aspects of my childhood, the things that I do remember. Members of my family might see this and probably won't like it, but, you know, it's what I remember. And before I forget, which will be great, that'll be a great day, I want to talk about it. Oh my God. Like, I seriously, it hasn't been this bad all day, but I've been doing exercises, so it's getting worse before it gets better, because my brain's like, no, don't change this. It's kept us alive. Even though it hasn't been in a great state. I mean, I don't want to talk about this, so that's probably also partly why it's like this. So, my biological father, otherwise known to me as my biological hazard, which is fairly apt, I think. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he ain't normal, okay? Maybe he has trauma from his childhood, I don't know. But he was a pretty traumatic person to be around in childhood. So, sorry, I have to. Oh God, I don't want to talk about this, but I have to. So, you know, this is my story. I think I'm entitled to it, and if people don't like it, I don't fucking care. As Ricky Gervais would say, I don't fucking care. I don't care. So here I go. My biological father was controlling, especially of my mum. When it came to me and my brother, he was more, I mean, I was a good little girl. And I think that was a learned behaviour. That wasn't necessarily who I was intrinsically. Like, if I was a little girl growing up with a healthy father, would I have been rambunctious and precocious, or, like, I don't know. But I grew up knowing, don't set him off. You know, he didn't drink. We grew up in a Christian house, went to a Christian private school, church every Sunday, home fellowship every Friday, you know, church events, school events, all religious, all, like, from the outside, pretty picture perfect. And he put on a very good face for everyone else. But at home, it was a different story. So he was very controlling of my mum. I mean, I don't remember this stuff because I've blocked a lot of it out. And as kids, you don't really notice the small things. Like, she said that he used to put on his indicator to reverse. So he'd be reversing into a particular direction. He'd put in his indicator on for that. He'd tell her how to put her sunglasses away. You know, light switches, doors, just real anal retentive, controlling stuff. Like, it wasn't just how he lived his life, she had to live it that way too. So, not healthy. And yeah, she's only ever talked about that stuff when I've asked. She doesn't just badmouth my dad. That's not who she is. In fact, when I have a negative narrative of what we went through with him, even though she knows it's the truth, she'll always try and remind me of something positive, remind me of something good, because she still wants me to have good memories of my childhood, even though I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I don't want to know. So yeah, like, she's not transplanted any of this onto me. These are things that I remember, or things that I've specifically asked her about. We were talking about things that I remembered or didn't remember from growing up about his violence. So she says that he was like a dry drunk, because he never drank, but he is a rageaholic. And my mum and I, our gender protected us, because he never hit us or anything like that. Although she did say that, because I said to her, oh, well, he never did anything to me, he only did it to my brother. But she said that, well, no, actually, like, when you were, like, little girl, you were sitting at your table just colouring in or whatever, and he swiped everything off the table and screamed in your face to go clean your room. And I was like, it's almost still a toddler, like, very young. Like the kind of age where your mum is still cleaning your room. So she said there were instances, whatever, you know what I mean, like that throughout my childhood. But I don't really remember. I only remember the really bad shit. So when she was like, what do you remember of his violence? She didn't want to prompt me or anything like that. And I just said, well, you know, the two worst times, although it happened a lot more, and it was the insidious stuff of walking on eggshells because you didn't want the worst shit to happen. And when it's not directly happening to you, like, he used to hit my brother. It's why my mum divorced him, because she could only protect my brother 50% of the time when she got 50-50 custody. So yeah, like, I only really remember the bad stuff. And so I just said to her, oh, well, I remember the day when we were standing at the front door at this specific house. And I said, I think it was the weekend. I don't really remember where we'd been, but we just got home. It was like towards the end of the day, and he just went off at the front door for seemingly no reason, and he took his fist. Now, in that house, I was like from about 7 till 9, and I turned 10 in a different house. So my brother is like 18 months, 2 years younger than me. So he would have been 7. Yeah, so like 5 or 6. He would have been like 5 or 6, maybe 7, but more likely 5 or 6. And my dad, who's like 30s, took his fist and backhanded him in his diaphragm with his clenched fist. And literally, there was so much blood. And as a little girl, I just remember standing there and my mum going straight to my brother, and I don't remember what was said. I don't remember if anyone was screaming. It's just like silence. That's all I remember, except for the blood. And she said, what were you thinking or feeling when you saw that? Because I explained to her what I saw, and then she asked that question. So she never put things in my head. If she asked me a question about my experience, it would just be an open question where, like, well, what did you feel? What did you see? What did you remember? So she's not prompting me with, oh, how badly did it hit your brother? Nothing like that. And I'm saying this because I don't want members of my father's family to twist it and be like, oh, well, she was always bad-mouthing, the kid's father. No, she wasn't, actually. It was the complete opposite of that. So you can just take that argument out of your bullshit narrative. If you're watching this, which you probably will, because you're all nosy cunts. So I said that I remember thinking, oh my God, he's just killed my little brother. Like, my little brother is going to die. It was that much blood. It was just, he was soaked in blood. He must have broken almost every capillary in my brother's nose from the force of his fist in his diaphragm, like forcing all the air out of his body. So, and this was like a couple of years ago. Like, I'm almost 32. I reckon this was when I was like 29, 30. We had this conversation. And I said, what were you thinking? And she said, well, I thought the same. I thought he'd fucking killed him. And, I thought he was going to die. And I said to her, well, if I'd known that back then, I would have been a lot more fucking worried. Now, my mother is a registered nurse. She's worked in acute. She's worked in theatre. So she knows when to panic and when to remain calm. So the fact that she was thinking, oh, my God, he's killed him, it just fucking says it all. So, shouldn't be laughing, but, look, I have this disease where I laugh when it's awkward and I'm uncomfortable. So, I don't think it's funny. I fucking hate talking about this stuff. So, that was one of the absolute worst times. The second one that really stands out, and there were other manipulative, nasty bullshit that went on with my stepmother and stepsister, and they would ostracize my brother and put him in the firing line because it was just easier to blame Craig than for my dad to wear that he was a fucking cunt. So the second time, and honestly, I'm going to be so fucking candid about this, and I don't care if it hurts people, because people should have fucking said something. There were people in this next situation who were mandatory reporters who should have fucking said something. And they didn't. And they deny it. And I have it in their own fucking handwriting. So, because a little slap to the face never hurt anyone. So that little slap to the face from my aunt and uncle, that's their narrative of what happened. Now, they were there, they witnessed it. So we were at Edithburgh. It was school holidays, and we were there, I think, for about a week, or maybe it was just a couple of days. And then we were travelling to a country town just outside of Kadina, I think it's called Alfred, for like a further week. So we were leaving to go to this from a caravan park to stay at cousins of my stepmother or something. So we're all getting ready, and Dad's spinning his wheels and getting more and more worked up, more and more agitated, more and more angry. And so me and my brother are looking at each other like, fuck, he's going to explode. We have to do everything perfect. Fucking perfect, or something bad's going to happen. So I put cereal in my bowl and pass it, and then my brother puts milk in his bowl and passes it, and we've grown up in the same house, so I'm looking at him and I'm like, yeah, that's smart. Get it in your bowl now, so that when the cereal comes, you can pour that in, and then we can eat, and then we can go. Because he's talking about freaking out, how Dad is talking about freaking out how, oh my God, we have to be out of here by 10. If we're not out of here, I'm going to get a fine, and he was always spinning out about money and stuff. And he'd got retread tyres on the car, and 3 of them had blown in this holiday. So that's like 3 extra tyres he had to get while we were away. So he's freaking out about money. So yeah, he's flipping out because, oh, we have to be out of here. It might have even been 9. I don't know. I can't remember exactly. But he was freaking out because we had to be out of there, like, quick. And yeah, like, I mean, most caravan parks aren't that anal retentive. They say 10, but, you know, like, it just, as long as you're out, like, as quickly as you can be, you know, after 10. Like, you know, most people aren't going to be like, oh, well, we're going to have to make you pay for another night. Like, come on, it's country South Australia. They're not going to be assholes. Country people are generally very nice people and very understanding and very giving. Like, but, you know, when you're dealing with a person who's anal retentive and rageaholic and dealing with their own fucking anxieties and OCD and whatever the fuck goes on in that mind, I couldn't fucking tell you. I don't have a degree. I can just tell you it was traumatizing to grow up with. So I'm watching my brother put the milk in his bowl and I'm going, yeah, because we need to eat before we go. And if you put your milk in, once the cereal gets to you, you can put that in. So he does that. And then my stepsister, who's like a year or two older than me, she sees him put his milk in his bowl. And now she's been with us in our family for like 2-3 years by this point. So she knows what my father is like. She's a cunt only child. And I'm sorry if you're an only child and not a cunt, but she is one of those only children who are a cunt. So she's sitting there and she's like 14, maybe 15, and she's like, Craig's being silly. He's putting his milk in his bowl first. That was all the permission my dad needed. So he winds his hand back and he slaps my brother so hard in the face. Now, this is a 35-year-old man. And by this stage, I'm 11 and my brother's like, I'm 13 and my brother's 10 or 11. So he clocks him in the face, cleans him up so bad that my brother falls backwards off his chair. Now, this was so violent that my two cousins who were there witnessed it. Now, Cara was a year younger than me, so she would have been 12, and her brother was a year younger than Craig, so he would have been 10. And I wouldn't be surprised if Greg, bare minimum, has blocked this out because he thinks that, oh, my father doesn't deserve for me to post all the letters online that he sent me. But clearly he blocked it out. Their mother had to remove them because they were hysterical, screaming, crying. She grabbed them both, took them into their tent, didn't bother grabbing my brother, who was the one who actually got hit, right? These are two kids who have witnessed this act of violence towards another child. They were removed by a school teacher, whilst my uncle, who is also a school teacher, and neither of them thought to grab my brother and see if he was okay. Neither of them thought to call the police. And seriously, fuck you. Because I don't, in the words of Ricky Gervais again, I don't care. I don't fucking care. And I have it in your own hand, so don't try and make me take this down. Don't try and say that I'm fucking making it up because you wrote my mother a letter in like 2008, and so I have it in your own handwriting that you witnessed this. So don't fuck with me on this. And don't contact my brother and fucking dredge all this up for him because I'm not fucking having it, okay? It's not a threat. It's a fucking promise. I will publish your letter online. So just fucking don't. Honestly, am I angry at my father? Yes, because he should not have been violent. He should have got his shit together. But, parents can only do as much as they can do. What I am angry at is the self-righteous, holier-than-thou bullshit attitude of my aunt and uncle. And the fact that they and their kids witnessed that. And that was a regular thing. That wasn't, oh, that's just every now and then, and oh, well, he was a naughty child. No, he was just a normal kid. They had two kids who were completely placid. That wasn't my brother. That's not what his son is like either. But that doesn't mean that you hit a kid in the face to parent them. That's not parenting. That is child abuse. You were both school teachers and you both witnessed it and you wrote a letter and you signed it in both of your names. So, don't fuck with me on this. I'm not interested in your bullshit narrative. Your children were so traumatized that you had to remove them. And they were screaming and crying and inconsolable for some time after witnessing this violent event. So, I am not having it. I'm telling my story. I'm saying what I've witnessed. And I don't care if you feel like you're being dobbed in for being mandatory reporters, both of you, both school teachers, and not saying anything, not doing anything. I don't care. I don't fucking care if this fucks up your life or your reputation. I mean, quite frankly, probably no one's ever going to see this. So, who cares? This is important because often people don't speak about what they've been through because they want to avoid the fucking family drama and people being like, oh, you shouldn't have said that online, or some fucking legal recourse to force you to take it down. Well, I don't have any money. I don't have any assets. I've got nothing. So if you want to come at me, fucking go ahead. You want to chastise my brother and try and get to me through him, that is because he's been through enough. He has been through enough. And if you fucking do that to him, I will send that letter to the Department of Education, to the police, anywhere anyone will fucking listen to me and fuck up your life even worse than what this pathetic little video that no one's ever going to see could ever possibly do, right? So just don't. This isn't a threat. I'm promising you, if you fuck with me or my brother surrounding this video and me speaking my truth, I will fucking out you. This isn't outing you. This is some obscure video on the internet that almost no one is going to see. But if you try and fuck with me or my brother and turn into the cunts that you are, I will publish your letter. You know what letter I'm talking about. It's the only one you sent my mother, and it's signed in the name of both of you, both of the school teachers in my family. So, toe the fucking line. Honestly, I'm fucking done playing nice. People don't deserve protection anymore. You just have to be honest about this shit. And honestly, like, those were the two worst events. But the insidious small shit that happens every day and the walking on eggshells because you want to avoid the absolute peak of the violence, that shapes you in a way that is not healthy. So that's all the sort of bullshit that I'm trying to sort. I remember after this event in Eithberg where he backhanded my little brother so hard in his face that he fell backwards off his chair and was witnessed by 2 school teachers and their children who were traumatised, and they only witnessed it. We then, this is the other thing, my brother, the only support or consolement that he got was a reverse dial phone call to my mother. I'm not even a parent yet. I can't imagine how traumatising that was for my brother and for my mother, because I don't even know what he was like on that phone call, because he just ran away and I just sat there because I didn't know what to do. When I was 13, what the fuck can you do? You can't do anything. And yeah, you feel guilt for that. But, you know, you're a kid. I was literally a child. There's nothing you can do. There were 2 adults there that witnessed it who were school teachers and they didn't do anything. What the fuck was I supposed to do? So I have to deal with my guilt for not doing anything, even though there was nothing that I could do. You know, and that's something that you just have to deal with. When you watch someone who you love, who is an innocent child, get hit their whole life. You know, and you don't have to bash a child. You don't have to rape them. You don't have to do any of those horrible, horrible things in order to really fuck them up. You know? So, my brother reverse dialed my mother, and that was the only comfort he had when he was like 12 plus hours away from her. She didn't know where we were going next, and we were leaving that day. There was no way the police could have got there in time. There was no way my mum could have found us. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't know the address, like nothing. You know, my aunt and uncle didn't think to call the police. My aunt and uncle, who were school teachers, didn't think to say to my dad, well, look, we don't want to dob you into the police, but we're going to put Craig in our car and take him back to his mother, because that was really horrific and we can't leave him in your care because we're mandatory reporters and bare minimum we have to take him home to his mother. But they would never have done that because that would have been them admitting that what they saw was abuse. So of course they didn't fucking do that. They didn't do that. They didn't call the police, because then they would have had to actually dob him in, you know, or they would have been caught out like, oh, well, why did you take him home to his mother? Why did you think that was necessary? You put him in his car and took him 12 hours home to his mother? That's a bit extreme. Like, what happened? They would have had to fucking come, oh, well, his dad just gave him a bit of a slap in the face. Oh, really? And what was this slap in the face like? Maybe we should interview everyone who was there, like your kids, who were fucking traumatized. Like, seriously. Of course they weren't going to do that. But they fucking should have. And that's the point of this video. It's not just about the person who does the abuse, and it's not just about the person who experiences abuse. Everyone who's present is affected by that kind of violence. And there were 2 people there who treat my mother like she's a shit parent and, oh, well, he didn't get the parenting that he needed. I'm sorry. My brother having a difficult adolescence wasn't because he didn't get parented by my mother. She was on his ass parenting him all day, every day. Firstly, because he needed it. And secondly, to protect him from my dad. Because if she kept him in line and parented him, it kept him safe. He had a hard adolescence because he was dealing with the trauma of his father hitting him growing up. So the fact that they can say that when they've actually witnessed the abuse is just the height of hypocrisy. And it's why I can't fucking stand that side of the family. Honestly, like the most wizened person on that side of the family is my grandmother. Because I've had discussions with her and she fucking gets it. She doesn't say much, but let me tell you, there's a lot going on up there. She gets it. She's more emotionally intelligent than anyone else on that side of the family. And oddly enough, my father disowned me when I was 13 via letter in the post. I will get to that. He disowned his mother and his sister, and he blames my mother for everything. So, what's that word? Oh, right, a misogynist. Like, bare minimum, I think I can claim that he's a misogynist. So, oh my God. Like, this is my family, you know? If you have a fucked up family, don't worry, you're not alone. You are a card-carrying member of the fucked up family club. Congratulations. Like, at least we have each other. So, alright, so back on track. So my brother calls my mum, and I asked her, and this was when we were having a conversation about what I remembered. And I said to her, what was that? Well, I can't even imagine what that phone call was like. What was that like for you? And she didn't cry or anything, but, you know, she still looked disturbed by it all these years later. And, you know, she said obviously he was distressed and he was asking me, like, begging me to come and pick him up. And I was saying, I can't, Craig, I don't know where you are. I don't know where you're going next. You know, I can't. And just, like, literally just telling him she loved him and trying to say whatever a mother can say in that situation where her child is completely traumatized and completely alone. He was alone. He had just been violently hit by a grown man, a little boy, and no one was there for him. So, yeah, it's just like, I can't imagine what that was like. And then she told me, she said it was worse because she'd given him the reverse dial number if he ever needed it. And she said, if it ever happens again, if he ever hits you again, I will come and get you. I don't care where you are. And he did it. He rang her and she could not get to him and she could not find him. So they were both in an impossible situation. And yeah, just like, and the thing about my dad is he is violent and he is unpredictable. And I think that he does have some, I don't know if it's sociopath, I don't think it's psychopath, narcissism, definitely misogyny, but like, I'm not a trained person, but like, he's not right. And to call the police on him, like for my mother to have called the police, if his brother had done it, it might have been a different scenario, because when a man challenges another man, it's a different thing. And we're dealing with a misogynist here, so it's not gonna end well if a woman goads him. Do you know what I mean? Like, so my mum, I don't think it would have been safe for her to call the police. It wouldn't have been safe for her, and it wouldn't have been safe for us. So yeah, because angering him, it's not an option. But yeah, like, so then we had to spend another week alone with my biological father, my stepmother, and my stepsister. Now, after witnessing what I witnessed when my father hit my brother that day, it was like 2 or 3 days later, and my brother hadn't spoken to my dad. And it wasn't out of spite. He was 11. He was trying to stay away from his abuser. And my stepmother and stepsister made it all the fucking worse. Dad had gone out somewhere. I don't know. My stepmother bailed up my brother in a corner. A grown woman. This is a grown fucking woman, okay? Bails up my brother. I'm trying to go to my brother and, like, screaming at her to let him go. And my stepsister is holding me back from going to my little brother, trying to protect him because I was the only fucking adult in that room. Like, you're going to bail up a child in a corner who's already been traumatized, and you're saying you need to speak to your father. Don't you know you're upsetting him because you're not speaking to him? Are you fucking kidding me? So this is the shit that we're dealing with in the aftermath of that horrific event, and my brother doesn't have any support other than me, and I'm just a kid. And I'm traumatized from witnessing it as well, because when it's bad enough when you go through abuse, and honestly, it is just as bad watching someone you love be abused and you're helpless to stop it. So yeah, that happened. So that made it all the worse. And it was fucking horrible. It was fucking horrible, and it was always like that. It was always my dad, my stepmother, and my stepsister against me and my little brother. And it was just fucked up shit like that all the time. That was the worst that I remember, or although there were other, like, things that were not pleasant. But yeah, like, these are the kind of people we're dealing with. We're dealing with a grown woman who bails up a child who's been severely abused by their father, and they're saying, you need to apologise to your father. Like, gaslighting a fucking child. What is wrong with people? God, this is why I'm dealing with all this fucking trauma and abuse and bullshit, because I don't want to do this to my children. I wouldn't want to do this to someone else's children. Like, oh, like, seriously. And then I remember just being in the depths of despair because I couldn't get away. I couldn't help my brother. I couldn't protect my brother. And I think my disease started way back then, like in the immediate aftermath, because I remember, I don't know if I'd just woken up and I didn't want to get out of bed because I just couldn't face anymore, or if I'd gone back to bed because I was like, it was just too much. And I remember just lying on this mattress on the floor, like looking under a bed and around a room and just thinking, if I'm in bed, no one's gonna, I'm not going to witness anything, and people aren't going to bother me because they won't want to wake me up. And I just remember not wanting to be there because there was nothing I could do to protect my brother. You know, like, and it was just intolerable. So, yeah, I just remember wanting to go back to bed and not come out because that was the only safe place. You know, and like the abuse didn't even, like, okay, like it kind of happened to me because I witnessed it, but like, my little brother was the one who got hit, and no adult protected him. And there were 2 adults there who were healthy. They think that they're healthy enough, and mandatory reporters. And they didn't protect him. They did nothing to protect him. And then they have the balls to say to my mother that, oh, well, you didn't let Guy parent him. That's not parenting, that's child abuse. That is child abuse. It doesn't matter who you fucking talk to, or any fucking sane person who witnesses a grown 30-something-year-old man, a big man, backhand an 11-year-old boy in the face so hard that he falls backwards off his chair and runs away. That's child abuse. That is not parenting. Like, it's just not. And as a teacher, you should know that that's abuse, especially when your own fucking children are so traumatized that they have to be removed from the situation because they're hysterical, screaming and crying and inconsolable because they're so terrified because they've never witnessed anything like that before. It just makes me so angry. People, even in the same families, who are supposed to protect the child, won't do it. They will not fucking do it because they have to say, that's my blood and that's what they can do to a child. What could I do to a child? You can't face your own fucking family. It's gutless and it's disgusting. And I don't blame my brother for 1 second for not being able to stand my uncle. He fucking hates him. And to be fair, I do too. Because he's a teacher. He's a mandatory reporter. And so is his wife. They were both teachers and mandatory reporters. And they didn't do anything to protect him. They were the only 2 adults there who could have protected him. My stepmother was too fucking psycho and unhealthy to have the first fine fucking clue of how to protect a child. And she and her daughter wouldn't want to get on my father's wrong side, even though he's never hit a woman, but they know that he's volatile. They'd much rather blame that on my brother. All of them would, because that's easier, because then you don't have to look at your own shit. You don't have to look at the fact that you were all adults and you did nothing. Or your child baited him and gave him permission to hit my brother. You don't have to look at that, which means you don't have to face your part in the trauma. So, and this memory of lying on the floor on a mattress and looking around the room under the bed and just thinking, just being in the depths of despair and powerlessness and helplessness and hopelessness because I can't comfort my brother, I can't get him to my mother, I can't protect him. Like, what can I fucking do in that situation? You know, just, you can do your best, but you know, when you're a kid in that situation, there's only so much you can fucking take. You know? Like, I don't know how my brother got through it. But, I think that my disease started then because I recognised that that was the only safe place. And that memory only came back after doing, to be fair, DNRS. So it pulled that memory out and I was like, it was a bit upsetting. It is upsetting. But I'm working on that memory now. And I thought, wow, yep, that'd do it. So it makes a lot of sense to me why I became sick with autoimmune. And that, yes, I can reverse it. I just have to teach my brain to stop attacking me. Because actually, we don't need to go back to bed anymore. We are safe, and we don't need to do that to ourselves anymore. So we get to a week later, or a week after the incident, let's say. And it's my father in the driver's seat, me in the passenger seat, and my little brother in the back seat. And my father's driving us home to our mother's house. We've dropped off the camp equipment and stepmother and stepsister, and it's just the 3 of us in the car. And Dad's there, and he starts talking about, oh, you know, remember what happened at the caravan park, and, well, you know that you were being silly and naughty, and I had to parent you, and, you know, and he's justifying, and I'm going, this is wrong. And at that age, I never heard of gaslighting. I didn't know what that was. You know, only in the last 5 or so years I've learned what that is. He was gaslighting my brother. And at 13, I didn't know what that was. All I knew was that he was trying to blame my brother for being hit. And I thought, my God, I have to say something, because I don't want my brother to think that he did anything wrong, because he didn't. He did nothing wrong. And I don't want him thinking that someone hitting him like that is okay. I thought, I am the only adult in this car. I'm the only one who's going to say something. Like, and I'm 13 and this is like, you know, in the immediate aftermath of this happening, and he's about to drop us home to our mother. And, I don't know, trying to silence us and trying to make us think that it was okay and downplay it or whatever. Well, I know what I saw that day. And so he couldn't lie about it. And I turned and looked at my little brother in the back seat. And he looked like a little boy. And I thought, of course, he can't say anything. He's terrified of him. I have to say something. And as an adult, I can look at that memory and remember seeing him in the back seat and think, he probably regressed to the first time that he hit him, because he looked so small. He was 11, but he looked 4 or 5. He looked tiny. And I thought, okay. I turned back and faced the front of the car, and I was screaming at myself in my head, you have to say something, because he cannot think that this was his fault, because it was not his fault. And I thought, I tried to prepare myself, and I said, well, you've never rocked the boat, you've never talked back, you've never done anything wrong. He might hit you for this, but you have to say something. And I just remember screaming at myself in my head, say something. You have to speak for him, because no one else will. I did not want to let that moment pass without someone speaking for my brother. It seemed like forever, but it was probably like 30 seconds or something ridiculous, because when you're in your own head like that and you're terrified, but you have to do the right thing, because there's no one else who's going to send the right message to your brother that actually you're not alone in this world. And I will not let people treat you like that and then lie to you about it. So I remember challenging my dad, and I said, what you did was child abuse. It was not parenting. He did nothing wrong. I explained everything that I saw, and I said, if a policeman had seen that, they would have taken you away and they would have taken Craig home to mum. So you cannot say that that was parenting, because that was child abuse. And he tried to gaslight me. He tried to reverse it. He tried to justify it, but I wouldn't let him. And his mistake that day was that he didn't hit me. And honestly, if he had, maybe that just would have made me more angry and given me more courage. I don't know, because it didn't happen. But I didn't let it slide. Every time he tried to justify it, I would just repeat the truth back to him, repeat what I saw, tell him how the law would treat him if they saw him hit a child that violently, with other children witnessing it who were so traumatized that they had to be removed. And he couldn't argue. He could not argue with that. And I think he's narcissistic, because I unmasked him that day at the age of 13, and he knew that I would never stand for his lies again, and he knew he would never be safe with me again. And that's the truth. I will not lie for him, especially not to the detriment of my little brother, who is completely innocent in all this. Once he'd lost the argument about the child abuse, he started saying all sorts of mental shit, mostly directed at my mother. He said, oh, well, I know that you know, after we broke up, that your mother had a box of condoms and there were 3 missing. And by that stage, he was already remarried at the time he was talking about. And I said, so your ex-wife has a box of condoms, you're remarried, you know, you're not only divorced from her, but remarried to someone else. She's out having safe sex, and you've got a problem with that. That's literally the point of condoms. If you're going to have sex, you protect yourself and your partner. You know, she's doing the right thing, and even if she wasn't, it's none of your business because you're divorced and married to someone else now. That shut him up. And it was like 7 things, but I remember challenging him on the child abuse, challenging him on that, and then challenging him. And the only reason I remember these 2 is because I was directed at my mother, and I was like, not fucking having it. Because I was like, well, I've just defended my brother, and now you want to go for my mother? I don't think so, motherfucker. Like, I became a woman that day in the car because I was like, no more. And the last thing he said was, oh, well, you know your mother wears G-strings to pleasure herself. Like, what the fuck? And I was 13. I had worn a G-string to my graduation, so there was no knicker line. And so I explained to him, well, actually, I've worn a G-string. They're very uncomfortable, certainly not pleasurable, and they're far more ladylike than full brief undies because you can see a knicker line with full brief undies. And if you're wearing something that's a dress or pants that's tight, you're going to see a knicker line, and it's far more ladylike to not see any of that. Well, that shut him up. Especially because I was like, well, actually, I've worn them and they're very uncomfortable. So I was like, you can't. And when you're a narcissist and you're making up lies, of course I can refute everything you say. Because everything that you say is a lie. It's your narrative, and your narrative is a lie. So I challenged him. And I think that he likely is narcissistic or something like that. Because his narrative is so fucking psycho and not accurate to the truth. And honestly, that's just the fucking tip of the iceberg. Jesus, this could be a long video. Look, if you're still watching, or if you still watching later, like, well done. So, yeah, I unmasked him that day, and he knew he would never be safe with me again. And then it wasn't too long after that he sent a letter in the post disowning me and saying, well, you know, when you've grown up, I mean, I could pull them up and read them sometime. Like, if people want that, I fucking will. More than happy to, and I'll post them online. I won't post the letter from my aunt and uncle. That will stay in the kitty unless they decide to poke Mama Bear, because I'm not fucking having it. And honestly, this isn't me defaming any of you. This is just the truth, and I have it all in your fucking handwriting, all of you. So just don't fuck with me on this. So yeah, he sends a letter in the post saying, like, you know, oh, well, when you've grown up, maybe we can have a relationship. I grew up that day that I challenged him. The irony of that has never been lost on me. But did it hurt me? Did it break me? Yeah, it did. You know, your father says he doesn't want to see you anymore, even if he's fucked up. Even if he's fucking crazy and abusive and will only ever harm you, it still fucks you up. You know, and even when it happened, I thought, you know, I never would have disowned him if he hadn't done that. And that was the best thing he could have done for me as a parent. My brother had already decided I don't want to see him, with good fucking reason. But yeah, like, it was the best thing he could have done for me as a parent. You know, he's never going to heal. He's never going to admit that he's done something wrong. He's never going to admit that bare minimum he's dysfunctional, let alone abusive. He's never going to sort that out. You know, he fucking would have done it already. He would have done it when my mother begged him to get help, and he utterly refused and went on to continue to abuse her children, especially her son. You know? I thought of something before, and I'm like, it was important. So, when my father disowned his mother, we weren't seeing her at all until my mum found out. And she made sure that we went and saw her because my father wasn't taking us and he didn't let mum know. So she only found out when we as kids were like, oh, we haven't seen Nana or whatever. And so then mum took us out there and she made sure that we stayed in contact. And she made sure that we stayed in contact with our grandfather as well, so my father's parents. So yeah, she'd take us to visit both of them, and no problems with Nana, like, because Dad wasn't in contact, so he couldn't, mess with that relationship, other than just, keeping us away for the period of time before he disowned us, where he wasn't speaking to his mother, and then Mum was taking us to see her so that we didn't miss out on that relationship. And then after he disowned us, Mum would make sure that we would stay in contact with Pop and go and see him. Now, this speaks to how manipulative he is, and I think speaks to some level of and variation of some form of narcissism, because he can't tell the truth. He has his own narrative. He told my grandfather that we disowned him. And my grandfather we'd go there and he would cry. Like, World War II veteran, survived 2 concentration camps, and he would cry. And he would say that Dad had sat at his table crying, saying how we'd disowned him, how we'd disowned our father. Craig had decided not to see him, although he still got a letter in the post saying, it was sort of like a disowning letter, but he also said, my door's always open to you. That was not what my letter said. So it was like a little bit different. But he told my grandfather that we had disowned him. And so my grandfather would cry, and he was like in his 80s. He would cry and beg us, please reconcile, please go speak to your father. And in the finish, it became so difficult to see him that we just slowly lost touch, because I thought, my God, he's traumatized now because his son is lying to him and emotionally manipulating him. What is going to happen when he finds out, if he finds out, that actually it's the other way around, and we've got it in letters in his son's handwriting? What's that going to do with him? He's already old and emotionally distressed, and we thought, my God, we didn't want to tell him, so we never did. So we lost contact because it was traumatizing my grandfather. And I mean, maybe that just made it worse not telling the truth. I don't know, but what do you do in that situation? You're dealing with someone that's in their 80s, and I was only like 14, 15. Like, he died when I was in year 9. And so it wasn't long after all this happened. He killed his father. Like, he emotionally fucked with his father and distressed him because he lied to him. I don't know if my father's brother and sister know this. I think my auntie knows. I'm guessing my uncle knows. But, like, really? You're going to defend that person? You're going to defend the person who lied to his father and emotionally manipulated him when he was that old? It honestly boggles the mind. It just boggles the mind. So that's the kind of person that you're dealing with. Someone who is that gutless that they can't even be honest with their own parent about what they've done. Can't even find a manipulative way to justify why you've disowned your kids. No, you just go the opposite direction and lie and say that your children have disowned you, when actually it's the other way around. And he did the same with his church. Like, that is the level of lying, manipulating garbage that we're dealing with. There's other shit that he's done. Like, he went to England. He was born in England. My grandparents were born in England. And he went digging into ancestral stuff. And when he came home, he told his father and his father's sister that are actually, it looks like you're not brother and sister. Your sister is actually your mother. Traumatized both of them and their families. And honestly, probably helped the two of them to their grave faster, because he had no fucking right. But this is the person he is. He would rather say something that he thinks he's found. Oh, look what I found. Oh, I'm so clever. I'm so smart. Like, when people get to their 80s, fucking leave them alone. Jesus. But no, he's a piece of shit. So honestly, all he's ever done his whole life is traumatize people. And he's never going to fix that. Like, he's never going to fix that. I can't imagine he's changed at all. I can't imagine it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to say. I could always make another video. Sorry. If you're watching this and you're like, oh, Jesus, another video. But, if I'm going to forget all this stuff, I want it out there, because it's important to tell our stories, even if they're horrific, because, to be honest, this is Earth. It's not an easy ride for anyone. Some people's ride is a lot more difficult than others. But we have to talk about it so that people know that they're not alone. So that even though I'm saying I know what caused my disease, and I know the mentality behind it, because my brain wired together too many times, I'm terrified, go to bed, that's the safe place, stay in bed, you'll be safe there. And so I've got stuck in that. And then it has very real consequences where your mind goes, oh, bed is a safe place. Quick, make yourself sick and stay sick, and then you can stay safe because you can stay in bed. That's not my fault. That's no one's fault. Whatever your thing is that's made you sick. It doesn't just happen out of nowhere. Are you born that way? No. I wasn't born with ME/CFS. I wasn't born with fibromyalgia. So I know. I know I can reverse it. And I know what's caused it. But yeah, we have to tell our stories. And if you are a mandatory reporter and you see abuse, my God, fucking say something. Seriously, don't be so fucking gutless. So, now that I'm nice and triggered, I'm going to do some EFT practice at FasterEFT, and I'm going to record a bit of that too, so that you can see me do the process. If you do if you do EFT and I'm doing it wrong, by all means, comment below the next video and let me know. And obviously, talking about my trauma and my childhood and all that sort of shit is not going to be a regular occurrence, because I don't want to relive it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't even want this to be public, but it's not honest if I don't share my whole story, and like if I don't share it now and I say, oh, well, I had a traumatic childhood, but I don't remember what it was because I retrained my brain to forget it, who's going to believe me? So, yeah, like, it's just, on the record of my life, basically, and a testament to, like, yeah, you can recover, and you don't have to be the one who got hit to be thoroughly traumatized. And there doesn't even have to be physical abuse or sexual abuse. People are just as traumatized by mental, emotional abuse. Like, it's just as bad. It really is. And honestly, in some ways, mental and emotional is worse because you don't have bruises. And, you see or hear other people's stories and go, oh, well, look how badly they were abused. I wasn't abused. Like, my parent was just a little bit fucked up. No, it's way more insidious. It's way worse when it's mental and emotional, because there are no bruises and there's no big event that you go, oh, that was abusive. But it's just every day, all the little shit, the controlling things, the walking on eggshells to avoid the big event, you know, or even just a small event where someone still gets hit and it might not be bashed and it might not be threatened and it might not be raped and it might not be all those other horrific, horrible things, but it's just as bad. It's always just as bad. So, you know, if people see this, I want you to know, like, yes, I've talked about the worst events, and there were others, but honestly, we'd be here all fucking day. It's already after an hour. But yeah, I want this out there for my record so that people can be with me from now until I recover, and so that you can see that, yeah, like I've been dealing with some shit, and it's taken me, like, I'm 31, turning 32 in May 2020, and this all happened in like 2001. And so it's taken me all this time to learn, to figure out how to heal, to find out about neuroplasticity, and to figure out, okay, I can fix this. And now it's just a matter of doing it. So yeah, if you're stuck in this, oh, waiting for Western medicine to fix me, don't. I spent 15 years believing that and waiting for someone in a white coat or someone with a stethoscope to come and save me. Well, they're not coming, all right? It took me 15 years to realise that, and some of the worst years of my health to realise they were not coming to save me. Western medicine is not going to fix you. They can keep you alive, but they will never heal you. So let them keep you alive and look into alternative routes of healing. I pulled myself out of multiple chemical sensitivity by researching, even though I could only read for like 5-10 minutes a day before the words in whatever document or PubMed article or whatever it is that I was reading and trying to research, 5 to 10 minutes I could read, and then English, the only language I can read and speak, would turn to symbols. The English language would just look like symbols because my brain was too tired to translate that. Now I can read. I can't read for long periods of time like I used to, but I've got healing to do. You know, I used to be able to read one of those big fat Harry Potters within 24 hours, you know, because I was there for the midnight releases, and let me tell you, I read those books. And I read them fast because I loved them. I can't read like that yet, but I will. I will be able to read like that again one day, and I will be able to write my fiction and my fantasy fiction, and yeah, I'm gonna get it all back. I know I can. I know what's caused it, and some things I don't even remember because, you know, there's only, and you know, unfortunately, a lot of the time we only remember the really bad things. All the good things fade away, you know. All the mediocre things, it's just like, well, don't really remember them, but the bad shit sticks in your head. So I'm going to flip those memories and turn them into something completely different, even if it's a fantasy. It doesn't matter, you know, that it is a fantasy at this point because it happened so far in the past. You may as well make it something that you can live with and be happy with, even if it is fantasy. So I think that's about all. I didn't write any list for this video. I've just spoken whatever comes to mind. So yeah, hopefully I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, and hopefully you're not triggered or traumatized watching this, because, you know, it is upsetting. So yeah, I'm just gonna sign off because it kind of feels like that's all there is to say. So, I'm just going to sign off because it feels weird to do like my usual thing. So take care of yourself and the people you love who deserve it, because they don't always deserve it. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.